success is interesting because I think it's something like 80% of millennials, success is being rich for them. That's a lot that just still want the bits that we see in media as symbols of success. But when we just went to that next level, and part of it I think was having a female there, it was all guys, and me sharing some of my vulnerabilities for the year gave them permission to do the same. Within one layer of questions, we were already straight in deep to, well, actually success for me is having a healthy personal relationship, and all of the little issues that sit around, and then wanting to set some goals around that. So the personal goals around that will then lead into the business stuff. It almost makes the business stuff a bit easy comparatively.
Hi Amber, and thank you so much for joining me on the next episode of Be The Drop.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
It's so great to be in this new space that's not even yet open, but very soon evolve. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about your space and the purpose and your story of how you got here. But to get things started, I know you've brought your items of significance. So if you could explain them and how they connect to your community and introduce us to your story.
Okay, I've bought a ram. This is actually just a bit of a cheapie from the Central Market area, but the ram for me, I did grow up on a farm, but apart from that, it sort of symbolises strength and vulnerability. Like, I think the job of a ram to be tipped into a paddock and have to do its thing and meet a whole lot of new people and new sheep with a purpose. It's a bit like being in business and having to find mates, get on and achieve what you want to do, and I ramble a lot as well. So the ram does that. The ram's in that rambling. So that's my sort of backstory to the ram.
Okay.
And then I've got
so
completely unrelated, obviously, but a Tibetan singing bowl. I'm a definite personality A type, so I run around, rush, 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 and these are the sort of anchors in my life that I bring in to slow down, be still. And for me, this just recognises that and reminds me that I'll just give it a little ding. And then the idea is to sort of roll around the rim. So it just emanates out and out and out, and just from such a really small, simple, little serene experience, just that. I guess that ripple effect.
I certainly relate to the ripple effect with Be The Drop, and
yes.
That's something that I feel very strongly too. From one thing, great things can grow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've told us a bit about these symbols that are certainly important to you and have symbolise your business journey. Can you just expand on that and talk about the connections that you've got with your community, the different communities along your business journey?
So for me, sort of back a step, I guess, my career started in the not-for-profit sector and working for quite dynamic big organisations in mostly operational roles. From there, I ended up having, I became a workaholic really in that environment, because what people will know, not-for-profit spaces, you wear multiple hats, you do a million different things, you can burn out. I did. I got quite unwell, so this was about 7 years ago, with a complex illness that lasted for about 8 months. And it pretty much put me horizontal, put me to bed for that period of time. And that was a huge reflection period for me. I've got a really strong work ethic, and I still do, but I guess I got an appreciation for that, the need to, get out your Tibetan singing bowl and just sit and stop and reflect and bring in those essential elements that, produce success in the long run, in terms of just looking after yourself. And it was through a comment that my son made, I guess, that was a real sort of turning point, which shifted me to then come to work for myself. And he said, I just asked him to do some little innocuous thing like put away his shoes, and he said to me, "Why do you care? We're all just going to die anyway." And it really struck me. He was only 7 at the time, and I realised, well, actually we are. That you're right. And what am I doing? I really want to just make the most of the rest of my life, and I really want to work in a way that is honouring all the things that I love and that I enjoy and that I can, give something back. I really got into food, got into the organic side of things, made a connection with Daniel Milkey of the Argo Group, and worked in that space with a family business for a number of years and still do. We've talked about producing workshops and working more closely one-on-one with people and mentoring and coaching and appreciation for business and the person and marrying those together. And we've got an opportunity here now in this space to literally just create the space to do that and bring in others that care about that. So we've called it Evolve. It's about creating a space where others can come in and share, share those things, and we can all continue to grow and learn and evolve without sounding cliched.
So obviously this is just the beginning. So what sort of advice, I suppose, are you giving yourself? But also, what would you give others, in starting new things, going out on your own? What sort of bit of advice would you give around that? Find
peers in business or in the area that you're interested in, and get support. And know your purpose as best you can, and go easy on yourself, but still work hard and fast. Again, like the RAM, in, do the job, out. So
get the business done.
Yeah, that's right.
And you've mentioned a few times education being something that's really key, and then leaving the books and people taking away. So obviously that learning and continuous growth is something that's really important to you. How are you sharing the importance of that with your community?
That's intrinsic and that's, I guess, where the synergy is with Daniel, because we're both really passionate about that. He often sort of talks about being afraid that he'll leave, not having learnt enough or not having read that next book or something. So there's an urgency around it for whatever reason for us, I guess. And the way, to create a space and talk about, those opportunities in closed Facebook groups and building deeper connections with people through mediums like that has been really key. We've actually set up a little men's mentor group here, thinking that those guys, which is sort of what they'd said, would be really interested in business tips. Turns out there's all the aspects of their sort of personal life that they really want to talk about, and there's not a lot of opportunities for men in particular to explore that. So it's just sort of led to us creating the space. For us, this space is very much where you come to do your life's best work, ideally, because business is lifestyle for us, because we spend so much time in a work environment that you may as well make it your lifestyle. So that doesn't mean everyone should work for themselves or set up their own business, and we're all a bit mad for those that does do that, I think, to some extent. But and it's not everyone knows it's a pretty up and down road.
So, and there is a theme, increasing themes I see around of hustle and work and go, which reflects the workaholic version that you were talking about. So you're obviously saying that constant go has got challenges and, is going to cause problems. So then what is the balance, the counterbalance, and how do you help people achieve that? Yeah,
I believe in rhythms. I think the seasons show us that. I think nature shows us that. And it's about understanding ourselves and just knowing that, if you're having that really frenetic output, what you need to do to counterbalance that, what you need to do. And it's different for everyone, of course, and the Tibetan singing bowl is not going to be for everyone, or doing yoga or doing reflective work in the morning or whatever it might be. I've found my things, and they'll change, they'll continue to change, I'm sure. But it's about people feeling like they can talk about that and factoring them into the workday. So whatever it is, if it's walking around the block or if it's sitting by yourself or reading a magazine or having a conversation that's not work related within the working day, and doing more of that.
Do you find that there is a pushback around that, where people might say that it's a counterintuitive approach if you're, wanting to set up and work in business, if part of what you're selling them is, okay, but you need to step away from that and have mindfulness time. And, do you find people challenged by that? If they're looking to engage your service and part of that is you need to take time off. Do they find that a challenge in business?
Yeah. Well, the entry point usually always is the business, in to help problems with staff, issues with this. It's often that we go in talking about the business stuff, but it does quickly revert to, and it's through questions, it's through the quality of questions. So for me, a lot of my work is asking those questions. When you get the answer, the reflection then kicks in that actually the issue's not here, it's over here. And so it comes into it just as a natural course. But yeah, in terms of ease of getting that conversation started, it just organically, I guess, arrives when you start asking questions.
Yeah. And it's interesting, you mentioned, you know, with your men's group, the permission for them to be vulnerable. And that's something that I think, you know, more and more people are having that type of conversation, but I still do think that there are a lot of people that struggle with that permission to be vulnerable. I mean, personally, I find it hard myself as well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts around that?
Well, I didn't know whether or not a group format would be ideal, because being vulnerable firstly, but then also in front of other, in front of other people. But I think if you lead the way, like, you just got to show a little bit of leadership. So they'll share it. They like to be listened to. They like to be heard. We're all so busy. There's not a lot of opportunities for that, and often that's not happening at home in relationships, and people are craving it somewhere or other. So it's making sure workplaces have that inbuilt into the structure of the setup, and that there's one person that's like, I mean, Daniel often talks about the CEO being the chief emotional officer. You know, that if you're the leader of a business or you're managing staff or whatever, if you're not great at having those more vulnerable conversations, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be you, but find someone who is, and make that, you know, a part of the culture by setting the example. Because if I go back to sort of all the HR, you know, issues that come up, it's usually around, conflict and stuff that arrives. People don't typically turn up going, I'm just going to be a dick today, and I'm not going to work very hard, and I'm going to cause problems, or I'm not going to serve customers very well. It's usually because there's something going on for them, and if we just take the time to find that out, then it becomes quite clear as to why their performance is affected.
Do you think that there would be challenges in providing that in a co-working space, because it's not really one culture, but you're trying to provide a space that helps support one culture?
Yeah. I'll let you know in a few months. But I guess it does just come from a place of some sort of deep-rooted experience, and having had hundreds of interviews and hundreds of conversations with staff and lots of problem resolution with quite young people as well. You know, just bringing those personable elements certainly get further with those, in terms of supporting people and enabling them to reflect enough to be able to, you know, get on with their strengths and their joy. And for me, you know, we're all skilled in lots of things. A lot of people get on in life doing what they're good at, but they don't necessarily do what they love as well, and it's marrying the two.
In conclusion, can you share with me Amber's Be the Drop tip? So that is your top communication tip.
Okay. Make mates, you know, go out there, know your purpose, go into that paddock, you know, talk to people, get to know everyone. Don't take it as far as the ram, obviously.
Great, I love it. Thank you so much, Amber.
No, you're welcome.
Well done.